is the first of a series of Coaching Innovators LinkedIn Live series. I'm Diana, your host. Good to be here. Just to give a bit of an intro before we get into today's conversation about our community, Coaching Innovators is an online community where coaches from around the globe meet and learn from each other. And we do this through organized sessions, through learning events, through book clubs, and other types of projects where we add to the body of coaching. We also experiment. That's a big thing of what this community does, experimenting with new approaches and new technologies in coaching. My guest today is Jiayao Chen. We have here with us today mental health coach for modern work and life. She works with ambitious people navigating the pressures of modern life and work. Welcome, Joe. And I would love to have you introduce yourself before we get into the topic of today's conversation. Tell us about yourself.
Yay! Thank you, Diana. It's really great to be here. I don't know where to look, but I'll just start.
Just at your camera was great because I can see you and I can see you're looking in the right direction.
Okay, great. Thanks. Hi everyone. My name is Jiayao. I am a mental health coach for ambitious people who work in the modern life. Um, and I'm also one of the co-founder of Coaching Innovators. So it's really great that we are here and we have everyone. I've been coaching now for I think more than 2 years, and I work with people who have health concern, mostly people who have mental health concern that they would like to talk about, and stress that they face in everyday life, relationships, and also fitness and workout, all sort of things that impacts our health. And I believe that you cannot be well in parts. You have to be well all together. And that means you need to take time to look after yourself, both physically, mentally, and all other aspects. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you for the intro. And yes, I really liked how you said we can't be good just in parts. We need to take a look at the whole of who we are. And I'm curious, since you talked about these aspects of stress and our day-to-day life, what led you to this coaching specialization of health and wellness, and then the mental health part as well?
Mm-hmm. The story goes a little while back, when I was in high school, kind of thinking about what I wanted to study for the future. I realized I keep coming back to this point of psychology, where I find myself
Mhm.
always wondering why people want to do what they do. And I find that being able to understand that and implement that into my everyday life and work even then was a big help for me to get through a lot of the challenges that I was facing at the time, throughout universities and all other times in my life. And I thought I want to be someone who can help others to reach their best potentials. And initially, I thought maybe I'll become a clinical psychologist where I can work with people who are already being diagnosed with anxiety, depression, and all sort of things. But then I realized, with studies and with time, that I think a lot of these things didn't actually have to wait until they are fully developed before a mental health issue is fully developed. There are many, many stages beforehand that we could already do to prevent it from being developed further. For example, lifestyle changes is one of the strongest protector of a lot of the mental and physical health problems. So if you look after yourself every day in different and small ways and have good habits, you are meant to live healthier and longer in many ways. And so with that, I came to the field of health and wellness coaching, because it's a field that allows me to work with people on this field. And with the National Board accreditation, I can even work with the hospitals and the clinics, also people who are going through depression and anxiety, all of these more serious mental health disorder, that I can help them to build sustainable habits that protects their mental and physical health. So a little bit of a long story, but I think the field kind of came to me more than
Mhm.
I chose the field. And so far, I've been really happy with my choices.
Nice. And I want to acknowledge and recognize this word and with it what it means of prevention.
Mm,
And I see this happening and being more and more present in our lives to
yeah.
look at how we can be healthy and content and happy and so on, not just treat different
Mhm.
conditions or different
Mm,
diseases like reactive, not reactive, but proactive. And I
right.
love that concept. And I'm so happy that we get the chance to talk a little bit more about what it looks like, right?
Mhm.
How in your work with your clients and perhaps groups even, you help them realize how important prevention is. And
Mhm.
the word of probably these days on multiple professionals' minds and probably in their conversations is burnout. I
Mhm.
hear it quite a lot, and I hear it in the context of career switching, a lot of volume of work, and so on. And
Yeah.
I'm curious, in your work, focusing on mental health and wellness, how do you help professionals prevent burnout so they don't get into that negative spiral and exhausted and they then need months or I don't know a year to recover and get
Yeah.
back to their themselves? So how do you help them prevent it, and maybe people can take some learnings of how they could do it in their own lives as well?
Mhm. First, I want to acknowledge that because the word of prevention had made its way into the mainstream media, people start to talk more about it, and I think it's a good thing because now people start to recognize that it is not it is not the disease. I think that is the ultimate goal because now staying healthy means that you are happy and content and can function like your full self on a daily basis. It's not just free of disease. People who have disease can also live really well. So I feel like that idea of prevention and well-being has made its way into the mainstream. It's really nice to see that there are more conversation about it. Funny enough, this is like how I grow up. As a kid, I come from a region in China in the south, which is called Guangdong. And nowadays, people talk more about Chinese medicine in acupuncture and in all of that. But
Hmm.
for us growing up, looking after yourself is a constant daily practice. We look at food differently. We eat according to the season, according to the needs of the body. So I feel like this idea of looking after yourself physically has been planted into my life a while back. So now I feel like it is something that I have been carrying with me all the way through. And in Western medicine, it's been talked about in a different way. And I think that's also the other cool thing I want to share. And then in terms of preventing burnout and recognizing it before it develop into a full thing, the first very important thing I always share with people if I have the chance is that there is a difference between feeling stress and burnout. So everyone feels stress at some point. In fact, uh, stress is not always a bad thing in people's life as much as how negatively we're talking about it on mainstream media right now. Because if you think about it, just a tree that grow out in nature, it doesn't just grow without having to going through the days without sun, the days without rain, the days that the soil is being polluted, or people walk around and kind of like damage some of the roots and whatnot. in nature, plants and everything go through stress because the changes is constant. And because we are able to withstand and handle the different kind of stress that come through in life, it make us more resilient and more strong. So if you look at the trees that has been grown for like 100, 200 years, it's not an easy journey that they have go
Oh,
through.
yes.
So I think that's the first important thing that I share with people is you come and you feel stress. But is what kind of stress are you feeling? Is it necessarily a bad thing? What is it causing you to reflect about maybe this journey and whatnot? So that is, I think, the first thing we talk about is the concept of stress. But if you look at the word burnout, it means that the stress has been around, that you're feeling this feeling for some time. Usually, burnout doesn't happen from one stress point. It could be a very consistent stress point that had happened for you in your work or in your life, but you didn't take the opportunity to address it at the moment. And then it accumulates and then it becomes a full burnout that you are experiencing. So, so the one thing I think it's really important for people to check in with themselves is when you feel the same stress point multiple times, let's say more than three, and it has been maybe with you for more than a month, then you
Mm-hmm,
ask,
mm-hmm,
what is it that I'm really feeling? Is it something that I feel like if I take some actions, that I can resolve this from this moment, but I've just been avoiding to do it because I'm busy, I'm doing all of that. Then
mm-hmm.
you try and then you see if it goes away. But then if you try and then you're like, okay, actually this is something bigger than what I can handle on my own, then I would say maybe it's time to seek a professional. Can be a health and wellness coach if you so choose. You can also go see a therapist and understand if it's something that it's stem from the past. So I think those were the two things that I share with people when it comes to burnout. One, to understand if it's a stress, if it's a good stress, it's a stressful
Mm-hmm.
period that is helping you grow, or it's a stress that is causing you a lot of distress. Then second, how long has the stress has been persist in your
Yeah.
life? Is it like a one time, or has it been with you for a long period of time? And when it's been a long period of time, it's better to check in earlier than later to prevent that it becomes something bigger.
Mm-hmm. I love the distinction that you made between the eustress, so the optimum or optimal stress, and then the distress or
Yeah.
chronic or yeah, there's so many ways to categorize stress, and definitely there are benefits to having some form of stress in our lives. It can make us perform better. At the same time, if it goes on for a long time, as you mentioned, you check in with yourself and you see you've had it with you for weeks on end, then there's a place to look at what's going on in our lives, in our work, and so on, and gets the help of a professional.
Definitely.
So I really do appreciate that distinction, and it's interesting to find out from you that you've had this kind of the physical health aspect embedded in you ever since you were a child, and the Chinese approach to things is
Yeah.
very concerned but like careful in this way. I think we need in this Western world, but not necessarily just the Western world.
Mm.
I'm in the eastern part of Europe, so in Europe, even, I'm not even talking about the States right now. We could benefit from, getting this approach closer to ourselves as well.
Mm.
So you combine the psychology background with this board certification in health and wellness coaching. And if we look at your practice, how does this psychology lens shape what you do with people in coaching and how you coach?
Yeah, I think for me, it's it. My background in psychology helps me to see people better from my experience. Uh, I am not a therapist, so for the audience who probably are wondering what's the difference between therapy and coaching, I could do a very brief explanation if that's helpful. So therapy is usually a past to present focus, meaning that when you talk with your therapist, a lot of the times you'll be discussing about things that happened in the past, and your therapist might spend some time to analyze your feelings, validate your feelings, and help you understand how has what happened in the past influenced who are you today. And the coaching conversation, it's different than that, where we have a present to future focus. So we'll be talking a lot about what is your goal, how does it look like, what's the ideal situation for you versus where are you right now, and how can we take you from today to this ideal world that you want to be. So there's a clear present to future focus that I think separates therapy from coaching in very distinguished way. And as a mental health coach, I don't diagnose nor do I treat any mental health disorder. So let's say if you are wondering, maybe since this world is throwing on the internet everywhere, if you have depression, it is better that you go see a therapist who can give you or not give you this diagnosis, because I am not able to do this for you despite me also working in mental health. So I just want to clarify that before we talk about what my psychology background gives me. So because I understand and I learned really well human behaviors from the psychology training, I think it benefits me in coaching to have a deeper conversation with my clients. And that I'm also very able to stay in the coaching lane and not go over to the therapy lane when I'm in the practice. I also think being able to work or being having learned all the psychology and motivation theory helps me to have a more productive conversation with my clients when it comes to also the neural or the physical part or the body part that they want to talk about in their life as well. So I think it's quite a unique length to have, because I was in the psychology world or the therapy world, and now I'm in another. Having this ability to go from one to the other and see things deeper, I think was what the psychology lens was able to help me.
Hmm, that's very nice. And thank you for giving us the explanation and the difference between psychotherapy and coaching. I do this talk with my clients in coaching whenever we start a process. I
Yeah,
know therapy is this, coaching is that, mentoring is that. I
yeah,
think it's important to differentiate between these instruments. And of course, there's a place for each and every instrument in someone's life, maybe at different moments, maybe at the same time.
definitely. Yeah.
And I really do appreciate you being able to stay in your lane, as you said, in coaching people and not going into the therapy ground, let's say, when you are working with your clients, and being also at the same time able to go deeper, maybe in these topics, because they're so personal and they're so important for people. And yeah, thank you for giving us that background about your experience, how it helps navigate your coaching practice and the differences between the instruments.
Mm,
And I also know that you are running a bilingual practice, both in
yeah.
English and in Chinese. If we were to look at differences, once again, because we're on the differences topic, what
Mhm.
differences have you noticed in how wellness or mental health has been seen, and how people kind of work with it
Yeah.
uh, across cultures, and Chinese versus Western world? What are the differences that you're noticing in mental health and in wellness in general
Mhm.
in the
Yeah.
population?
Yeah, I love this question because I think being able to work cross culturally in different languages and with a different client base is one of the things that I really enjoy with this work. I have clients that come from China but live in the US or live in Europe. I have clients who live in China and work in China, and then also clients in Europe who live in different European countries. So I think from
Mm-hmm.
the outside, it looks like it's a Asia versus Europe plus America difference, but actually, I
Mm-hmm.
think the differences are much bigger if you look specifically across countries. Different countries, I mean, not like Europe and then US and China. But something I see on a high level that I find very interesting that are connected to culture is when I talk to my Chinese clients, there's a bigger concern around how other people perceive them and the idea of a social clock. So in
Mm-hmm.
Chinese culture, there are certain life stages that are culturally expected of you, no matter where you are. For example, if you are a woman, you are, although nowadays I think it's less and less, but you are almost kind of expected to get married by 30 years old. So a lot of the clients come in and we talk about this idea of social clock. They get really, really anxious because they are approaching this
Mm-hmm.
age, but they are not either getting married or have plans to get married or want to pursue this path, but they are facing a lot of the pressure from their parents or their grandparents or all the family members, which you also see in some European countries as well. For example, my clients from Italy talk about the same thing. um, really, really depends. And if I look at my clients in the US, for example, a lot of them are really into this idea of optimization. So how
Mm-hmm.
optimize my health? How can I optimize my work? How can I be the most optimal version of myself in all these aspects in life? And then if I look at my clients that are coming from the European countries, a lot of the questions that I got, and this might sound very stereotypical, but a lot of the questions that we discuss in our chats are about work-life balance. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily that they don't have time after work, but it's more that they feel like the purpose of their job and the purpose of their lives are not aligning. So they
Mm-hmm.
have no energy after work to do the things that they actually want to do because they feel so drained from
Yeah.
performing work tasks during the work hours. So these are very big, high level differences that I'm seeing with the different clients that I'm coaching. And there are a lot of overlappings in between of these different cultures. And it's always interesting for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So as you were talking about these different topics and some of the similarities, I was thinking, yeah, it sounds to me like I'm of an American mindset living in an Eastern European country where I kind of was exposed to the same, and not just me, my friends and people around in my country exposed to the same kind of question of when are you starting a family? When are you getting married? Yeah, that's something that's in common to what you were saying. And
Mhm.
then my personal view on things and my personal preference for things is like, how do I get, good health? How do I have meaning in my work? How do I have the relationship? How do I have all of it? So optimizing things definitely is top of mind.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing all of these things. And if we were to think about maybe one thing that is common besides this idea of social pressure that
Mhm.
you found throughout your work with clients, is there anything that stands out as most common among countries, continents, different people from different places?
Yeah. Um, Actually, you'd be surprised how similar people's concerns are across the board, but the way they manifest is different. I think across all of these cultures and continents that I work with, everyone is concerned about their health. Everyone wants to live better. Everyone wants to have a more fulfilling career path. Everyone wants to have a better life quality. But
Mm-hmm.
how these manifest in the different cultures are different. And I think it's those differences that make working with each different markets unique. But
Yeah.
across the board, people aspire to live healthier and better. And that means to have a better mental health, to have a better physical health, and to be able to live longer without suffering from any diseases that can lower the life qualities.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I resonate with that. If I were to think about my own kind of interests and preoccupations, definitely the mental aspect, mental health aspect is probably top layer for me, and then the physical aspect is there, but not as much. But yeah, definitely we need both to be as happy, content, productive, have meaning in our lives, and good relationships as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you for giving us this tapestry of differences and similarities between and among countries and continents. And it shows that you have quite a wealth of experience with people from different backgrounds and different places. And what stands out to me from what you just described is this ability of you as a coach and coaching as an instrument to adapt to the person, the clients, with all the system that they're in and that they're coming to coaching with, and be able to help them regardless of where they're from and what topic they bring to the conversation. So, for someone watching who is functioning, but maybe they feel overwhelmed at this point, if
Mhm.
we were to give them one small doable thing that they can take away from today's conversation to recharge, to unwind, to relax, to whatever you want to call it, right? What is one small thing that someone can do on their own before going into working with a specialist? What would you
Mhm.
recommend?
Yeah. I think it's funny because when you were saying, like, for someone who's overwhelmed, who's stressed, who want to do something, oftentimes from what I've been seeing is that they've been doing a lot of things. And
Mm,
a lot of things is what is making them stressed, but they're not realizing this because they are in this mode of I always take 10 things at the time and I just do all of them. And they all have to be great. But upon reflection, you realize, is it really realistic with the time that I have to be able to accomplish all of these 10 great things that I put on my calendar that I
mm-hmm.
say I'm gonna do all of them and finish them
Yeah.
great? Usually that doesn't happen, right? And I think it takes some intentional pauses and reflection to know that like I am actually putting a lot on my plate, and that it on its own is the issue, not the 10 things I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of telling you one more thing that you should do to add to your plate, the hot take from me is you should, if possible, try to get a good night of sleep tonight. Um,
Mm-hmm.
try to go to bed a little earlier, find yourself a darker place, a cooler place, and just try to sleep and have a good quality of sleep in the evening. And that usually fixes many things because people who are chronically stressed are oftentimes light sleeper. And if you're a light sleeper, it means that your body and your mind is not recovered optimally. As much as I hated this word, but your body and the mind hasn't really
Yeah.
been well rested for a long time. And we are so focused on doing the work, but we forgot that we also need to rest. And how do we do that? Actually, we do that every day is through sleep. So if you don't sleep well, then you're going to feel the stress more the next day. And if you have a long periods where you don't sleep well, it is important that you check in with someone to see how you can improve
Mm-hmm.
your quality. So that would be my hot take and my suggestion is not to put one more thing on your plate, is try to get a good night's sleep tonight.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I know how foundational sleep is to our well-being and our health, and how it can help with mental clarity. As you said, the next day, you'll feel the difference the next day. And I know from lived experience, whenever I had bad nights of sleep, I would be cranky the next day. I wouldn't be able to focus as much. I didn't like life as much, right? And when I got good nights of sleep, I was like, yeah, let's do this. I'm like feeling energized and can do things. And yeah, I figured this out about sleep when I was around 30. And then I was like reflecting back on the nights that I lost when I was younger. And I'm like, oh, if only I knew this sooner, I would create a much better sleep hygiene routine for myself.
Mm,
But good thing I know it now, and I give sleep priority because I know and I feel the differences the next day quite immediately. So yeah,
definitely.
sleep 10 out of 10 for sleep. It's super important.
Yeah.
And as you were saying, the not, I won't tell you to add one more thing to your list. I would have imagined, besides sleep, that another thing that we could leave here in the conversation for people to take away is maybe to look at, of the things that you're doing already, what can you dismiss, what can you take out for a week, 2 days, whatever amount of time that can help you kind of breathe easier than
Mm,
feeling that you're juggling multiple things at once. And I can say again from experience, because I've learned this kind of the hard way of me wanting to do things, to push, to optimize, to whatever. And I would do things on days where I would feel physically ill,
mm,
uh, or not as good as on regular other days. And I had to learn to press pause on those days, or do much less on those days rather than what I was doing on other normal, let's say, days when I had the
mm,
energy for doing work. And at first, it came with a lot of guilt
yeah.
because I was like, but this is my mode, this is how I function. And then surely in time, and it took me probably around a year to be able to, okay, I know I'm not feeling at my best today, what can I do to recharge? Less of this, more of, I don't know, drinking a hot cup of tea, for example. So giving myself the time and the space for that has also helped, besides sleep, definitely has also helped me to feel better and more energized the following days. I
Mm,
get this sacrifice day, let's say, quote unquote, which isn't really the sacrifice, to tend to myself and look after myself. And then the following day or days, I feel much better to be able to take on whatever needs doing. So
yeah.
yeah, doing less could also be a good learning here. And I bet that there are people who are either with us here now live, or who will be listening to the recording, who are in doing mode, because this, like, the society that we live in kind of promotes that quite a lot, who could benefit from hearing sleep and doing less. Resting whenever you need to, even for 10-15 minutes, is
Mm,
it's better than pushing through.
definitely.
So yeah, thank you for that perspective. And our last question for today's conversation, because we're nearing the end of the LinkedIn Live, is, if there's one thing that you maybe haven't said before on a podcast, on a live, on anywhere you've been invited, right? That has to do with the work that you do. So
Mm,
something that you haven't said before, what is that one thing that you would like to mention and leave with us in today's conversation?
yeah. Wow, that's such a hard question. One thing that I haven't said, I think a lot of the times I talk about the mental aspect of things, so the stress and the conversations you need to have and whatnot. But I think what I has not mentioned as much is how big of an influence food also have to our health and
Mm-hmm.
mental health. And this connected back to what I was sharing with you earlier about how I grew up and how food is always considered a source of medicine. In fact, in my family, almost no one takes any medication in any
Wow.
circumstances. I'm not talking about my grandma who has diabetes and need to regulate her blood sugar level. But I'm talking about when you have a fever, when you have a cold,
Mm-hmm.
when you have all of these like flu and things. No one takes any medication, and if you have a fever, if you have like a cough or anything, the first advice to you is always to drink a lot of water and drink a lot of hot water. Maybe you've heard about this before, but it's really the one thing that your my family told us to do, and this is how I grew up. So until this point, when I have a cold or when I have a fever, that's my go-to, and usually everything goes away after 3 days. And of course, I
Mm-hmm.
sleep a lot as well, and I try to eat the food that kills inflammations in the body, um, and that maps to the proteins that I choose, the carbs that I choose, and the vegetables and everything that I kind of grow up eating and learning and
Mm-hmm.
knowing that they are good for me. I think we don't talk about this enough in our daily life. In, for example, Europe or in the US, I think now people talk about food more in the sense where how can it help me optimize my energy level? So, all the protein bars, all the protein drinks, all of
Yeah.
these supplements that you can take that are supposed to help you strengthen your body in different ways. But what we don't take seriously enough, or I realize from my observation here in Europe and in the US and elsewhere, is how actually that everything else that you eat, other than the protein bars, are doing more to your physical health
Mm-hmm.
than the bar that you eat. So um, so this is a topic that I'm interested in developing and sharing with my audience a little more down the line this year, because how we eat connects a lot to how we feel. And there are much more research that shows the connection between the gut and the brain and your emotions at this moment. So it's more clear for people from a science standpoint. But I think you don't even need to read the paper to know that when you have a stomach ache or when you are nervous, there are butterflies in your stomachs. And when you are down, you don't want to eat a lot of things. And when
Mm-hmm.
you can overeat because there is this excess that interacts with each other between your mood and the food and your appetites, right? So yeah, that is something I am interested in sharing more down the line with everyone.
Looking forward to reading and listening to all that good resource on food. It has been kind of, again, since I was telling you earlier, mental health first and then physical health second, it has kind of creeped up in the last few years for me to be quite intentional and pay attention to the things that I eat, to the movements that I do in my day-to-day life. And I'm really looking forward to finding out more about food. And so my takeaways are this idea of drinking lots of water and hot water. So definitely soups and teas help when we're kind of sick and having a cold, not feeling well. The sleep idea, that's super important, and it can regulate our mood and our energy for the next day quite a bit. And taking it easier on those days that we're not at 100%. So thank you so much for all of this valuable information and for letting us know about your practice and for giving us the ideas about how this practice looks different or similar depending on the culture or the country that your clients are from. It's been wonderful. It's been great to have this first conversation with you of the Coaching Innovators LinkedIn Live series. Tell the good people of the internet if they want to connect with you and have a chat with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun for me as well. Before I leave my contacts, I want to say one more thing on top of what you just shared, um, which is which is stress is not always a bad thing. I think
Yes.
this is very important to remember that stress help us grow, and it is normal that you experience stress. But if you experience a prolonged, persistent stress, you need to check in with someone. I wanted to add that. So if people want to connect with me, you can always find me on LinkedIn. I'm around a lot. And you can also find me on my website called unnoticedstudio.com. I will leave it in the chat or we'll add it to the notes later, where you can directly book a call with me if you want to get on and talk about what you are working on or thinking about, and maybe we can find a way to work together.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being our guest today. And everyone, have a great rest of your days, great rest of your weeks. Get good sleep. And we'll see each other next month for the next LinkedIn Live of the series. Have
Thank
a great
you.
day, everyone.
Bye. Have a great day.